Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. We're going to learn today a mimer from exactly 40 years ago of Gimmel Tammuz. Gimmel Tammuz is, of course, the Yom Hilula, the yahrzeit of our holy Rebbe. And this mimer was said on the day that would eventually be that. Now, it's of course, everything is by divine providence. And this it says that the day of the yahrzeit is the day that everything that the tzaddik did while he was here on this earth is able to affect salvation in the innards of the earth. The Rebbe expounded on that and what that really means at length at many occasions. But in its simplest fashion is that it's a potent day, a day of energy, a day of inspiration. And this mimer that we're going to learn, we learn days leading up to this, it also explains one of the Rebbe's quintessential philosophies in life, that the reason that evil exists and was created was for the purpose of being transformed into good. Darkness is there to be transformed into light. And this is one of the focal points of the Rebbe's instruction and guidance to all of us when we try to overcome our struggles and get over obstacles, etc., that these are here to strengthen us and to make us the greater, better people that we can be. So let's learn the mimer. It actually was just republished for in honor of this coming Shabbos, which is Erev Gimmel Tammuz. Gimmel Tammuz is going to be this coming Sunday. And just to show it's Veheenay Purach Matay Aharon. And so we're using the new edition, but it's of course the same mimer in the old edition too. And it's available all throughout, and you could find the mimer. Parshas Korach, Gimmel Tammuz, Of course, as we've mentioned so many times, that when it's 40 years, we also have that extra strength of Ad Arboim Shnin. When it's 40 years, it really settles and becomes part of the world and part of us. Veheenay Purach Matay Aharon Vayigmol Shkaydim. After the story of Korach in this week's Parsha, the rebellion of Korach against Moshe and Aaron. So we have an interesting story where God says that all of the representatives of the tribes shall place their staff in the sanctuary, and the staff of Aaron sprouted and grew almonds. So the verse says, and behold, the staff of Aaron blossomed, and it grew almonds. The Alter Rebbe, when he reads this verse in its most specific lessons in the Likutei Torah of this week's Parsha, similarly, we have this also by the Tzemach Tzedek. In his book, we sometimes also refer to it as Derech Mitzvah Sefer HaMitzvahs. In the explanation of the mitzvah of the priestly blessing, Lahavin Loma Shkaydim Dafka. Why particularly and specifically was it almonds? Maybe apples should have blossomed, or pomegranates, or grapes, or some other fruit. But we see specifically that it was almonds that grew from the staff of Aaron in this miraculous display of God's acceptance of Aaron after the rebellion of Korach. And he explains, he explains that almonds are the quickest to get ripe and finish faster than all fruits and all grains. Everything takes longer to come forth than almonds. That's why in Hebrew the word for almond is shoked, which is the same word as diligence. That's the idea of haste and speed. Meshakosev Makel Shoked. Now, in the prophecy of Jeremiah, we also see that he had a staff that was sprouting goymerki, and then when Jeremiah explains his prophecy, he says, "Ki shoyked ani al dvore lasoisai." God says it because I'm going to be hasty to do what I said, and this, of course, is not referring to something good in the prophecy there of Jeremiah. And the Alter Rebbe explains that this alludes to the priesthood. Like the simplest way of understanding the story, that the reason that the staff of Aaron blossomed was to illustrate and show us that Aaron was the priest. He was the one ordained to be the Kohen. Now, one of the primary tasks of the priesthood of Aaron is the blessing of the priests, the priestly blessing, the Birchas Kohenim. And the Navalei, what's special about the priestly blessing over all the other blessings is because it comes forth in a very hastily, speedily fashion. And like it says, and we say this daily in the davening in chapter 147 of Tehillim, that till very quickly his words come forth and issue forth like running. They come very quickly. Now, to understand this, we have to first understand what is the difference between blessing and prayer. As the Chassidus explains, and especially in the Mamorim, the discourses of the fourth Rebbe. The Rebbe Maharash, Sefer Mamorim Tov Reish Chof Tes, and especially, specifically in the Maimer, which is in the beginning of the Mamorim of 1869, 5629, and that's the Maimer. Also, we see in reference number 8, the Maimer of Amar Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi. Prayer means that we're asking from here, from down below. So it's already dependent on something that we have to do. We lowly, on the lowest level, have to really do something to be able to get it. And that's prayer. Therefore, in addition to the prayer, it might take some time. As we say in Yiddish, it'll take some time. Maybe the prayer will be fulfilled partially, maybe it'll be fulfilled fully, maybe it'll be fulfilled partially. Half. But a blessing in Yonah Hamshacham L'mayla, it issues forth from above. The one who is issuing the blessing is above, and it flows down from the source and from the root of the source. And therefore, that which issues forth from above is not dependent on what goes on down here. It's just coming and flowing, and therefore it flows in its fullest, in its ultimate. Nevertheless, we still have an advantage of the priestly blessing over other blessings. Because other blessings, it's possible that they should also be, those blessings are held up. But not so the priestly blessing, that the priestly blessing, which is also really relevant to all things that issue that issue forth in the world, as we're going to explain subsequently. The priestly blessings flow is in a very hasty and speedily fashion. What's it all about? Like the Rebbe, like the Alter Rebbe, the Tzemach continue in their discourse in the Likutei Torah in the Sefer HaMitzvos. Veheenay yadua she'ikar dinei shel ha'adam b'Rosh Hashanah. It says, the sages tell us that the primary judgment of humanity and the human being is on Rosh Hashanah, on the head of the year. Sha'oz kol Yisrael yichtav minachtav la'alter. Every individual Israelite is written and sealed, and to immediately be judged in Besifran Shal Tzadikim Gemurim, in the book of the complete righteous. So if so, why do we have to pray every day? If it's already accomplished in Rosh Hashanah, well, you should be enough to just pray Rosh Hashanah and you have all your needs taken care of for the rest of the year. And nevertheless, we have to pray every day. She mitzvah the same in that Torah. It's actually a mitzvah in the Torah to pray daily, like the Rambam brings as the halacha. Va'ad sheyesh Gimmel tefillas b'chol yom, to the extent that we have actually 3 prayers every day, and we have the Amidah, the Mimon Avshach. Listen, if we have to pray every day, then why do we have to go pray on Rosh Hashanah? Then what's it all about that we have to be written and sealed for immediate good judgment in the book of the complete righteous on Rosh Hashanah? We pray every day, so why do we need that? And if it's already all accomplished in Rosh Hashanah, then why would we have to pray every day? So whichever way you look at it, why is there this not a redundancy? So here's the explanation. Even though there is a discussion and I'm translating here the word plukta, which usually means a disagreement and an argument in the Gemara. But as we'll understand, this is really a discussion in the Gemara. But the reason why it's called plukta is because it's opinions that are opined by 2 different individuals, but nevertheless they are not contrary to each other. Is if a person is judged every single day, daily, or on Rosh Hashanah, but truth be told, one master says one part, one detail, another master says the other detail, and it's not an argument. They don't disagree. That which flows forth on Rosh Hashanah is at the root and the source of what's going to come. That's the judgment about that the person is judged on the head of the year. But in order for that which he was given and awarded and judged on Rosh Hashanah, that it should flow forth and descend in the rest of the days of the year and in all matters of his life, it's called for this blessing, this energy has to then go through the whole chain of creation. So now every stop in this chain, every link in this chain of creation has its own court, and therefore at every step there has to be another ruling. And there that court has to rule if we can release it to go further and to descend further. And then finally, when it finally issues forth to the lowest realm, it's possible that it will issue forth only in a spiritual way, in an abstract way. And then it has to be issued forth and flow from the spiritual to actual physical material. And even though there's a great distance between in comparing the spiritual, despite the distance between the spiritual and the physical. Even within spiritual itself, serving God, there's a great difference between those that serve God with their soul and those who serve God with their body, in a more corporal way, in a more physical way. And that's the difference between the soul and the body in serving in the spiritual service of God. So certainly between the intangible spirituality that we don't see in our most material way to actual physicality and material. That from the spiritual we want it to flow forth and be issued and descend in family and in health and in sustenance and all of them in an abundant fashion and actual physical material. So this is the advantage of the priestly blessing. It draws down and flows forth from the height of the heights, ad lemata till the lowest realm, with a great haste. So it's like in the express lane, and it therefore it's without anything that holds it back in the chain of creation of worlds, and with the many levels of the chain that have to happen when we pray on our own, and therefore it takes time. When it's the priestly blessing, it comes quickly and it's able to be revealed in the lowest realm. So that's where the blessing is in its source and its root. It's rooted in its source in the highest realms, in the highest heights, till we say till within God Himself, till the essence of God. And that's how it comes down. Boom. To the lowest realm. That's why it says in the priestly blessing, may God bless you and keep you, guard you. And the Medrash says there, our sages tell us, He should bless you. And what does it say, the great blessing? You think, we should be very, very holy people and very, very attuned spiritually. No, the sages say, with money. Meaning that the supernal kindness should draw forth from its spiritual realm to a very physical way, to actual money. Money, you could do a lot of mitzvahs with money. The Rebbe says here in the square bracket, we could also learn and therefore note from the lesson of the holy Baal Shem Tov, the founder of the Hasidic movement and Chassidus. He comments on the dictum of the sages. The Torah here, you're not allowed to be wasteful. You have to take care to keep things and not and be judicious, etc. financially. Therefore, we find that the Torah is a law that I can't even waste a plain earthenware pottery, a shard of pottery, which is maybe only worth what's called a pruta, a penny, or the smallest coin that's worth something. And sometimes we even talk about the fact that when the Talmud talks about certain things were done, and if a transaction has to take place, and somebody gives for this transaction, let's say this pottery shard, so then we say here it's worthless, you can't get any money for it. See, the Talmud says, but maybe if you take it to a more impoverished country, somewhere else, there it is worth something. So then maybe, therefore, it has intricate value within itself. So therefore, the Torah deems it important because it has value elsewhere. So even though here it may not have any value, so that to that extent there is value in something. So why is this? Why do we care? Why doesn't the Talmud just say, look, that transaction is not deemed a good transaction, whether it's a transaction of marriage, a transaction of business, or whatever it may be, that you need to have something of value to do the transaction. Say, redo the transaction. He says, no, maybe it was done, and maybe therefore it has ramifications, etc. Why is the Torah why is it so specific? What's the deeper meaning here? Because there are the sparks that have to be elevated. There's something here, the good that has to be done by this person who actually did this transaction, etc. And with one little, the smallest amount of coinage or value, you could buy something that'll give you strength. A person could purchase a sugar cube, right, with a penny. A sugar cube costs less than a penny, and that'll give sustenance and energy, etc. So the person can enliven the person. And therefore, the sages have said that charity, tzedakah, is equal to all the mitzvahs. So Mekareves is a gul and hastens the redemption. So in other words, with money, because you can give yourself life, right? Heaven forbid something you see in a diabetic, they're going down to low blood sugar. You eat a couple sugar cubes. What does it cost? Nothing. But it's a penny, a couple pennies. So that, therefore, tzedakah is like equal to all mitzvahs. And therefore, it hastens. Therefore, when it says Yivarech Hashem, the priestly blessing, may God bless you. He gam b'negei l'mammon. It's not only money, but like that dictum of the sages says, but it's also regarding money, because money can be holy and could and should be holy. Well, what does it say further in the same Talmudic dictum, the Medrash? So it says, may God bless you, so that the sages say with money, and keep you, guard you, min hamazikim, from the destructive forces. Sometimes it's also translated as demons. So something destructive. So the Rebbe says this is to the extent, even in a place where there are these destructive forces, the blessing can be drawn down to there to affect being guarded from the destructive forces. Like we've mentioned already, that the priestly blessing is drawn down from the root and source of the most loftiest level, till the lowest realm, without anything that could hold it back. Gimmel. So what's the reason then that the flow from that issues forth from the priest's blessing is so fast without anything that can hold it back and stop it? Why is this? Because Aaron is called the man of kindness. A kohen is a person who is intrinsically kind. Well, Derech says Aaron, that therefore all his descendants, the children of Aaron, Shalahemdim, to them, was given the mitzvah of giving the priestly blessing. That they also have the idea of kindness. So now that Rebbe says there's something similar, because the Mishnah tells us in the Pirkei Avos, be from the students of in the first chapter of Pirkei Avos, be from the students of Aaron, right? So the Mishnah says there, be from the students of Aaron, loving peace and pursuing peace, etc. So that means everyone also who's kind can give a blessing, and that blessing also has in it strength. Just a short note here. I remember when in I believe it was actually 41 years ago in Simchas Torah, that Rebbe said that really every Jew also has within him something of the kuhuna, of the priesthood. We're also, the Torah was given, we're called a nation of kohanim, of priests, etc. The Rebbe said everyone could really give an issue for this blessing, so every yid could really give in this the birchas kohanim, and that's indeed the custom, that when people bless their children, etc., and we say Yivarech, or we say the priestly blessing, even though we're not kohanim, most of us, just the kohanim are kohanim, but nevertheless, because we can also emulate the kohanim, so the Rebbe says that in a side thing. But now we're talking about the actual birchas kohanim. Therefore, what issues forth from the attribute of kindness, it issues forth in very speedily, without anything holding it back whatsoever. Nevertheless, within kindness itself, there are several levels, both qualitatively and quantitatively. The way of kindness that issues forth from Aaron is what we call much kindness. That's even higher than any measurement or limitation. Excuse me. There are two levels of kindness. Chesed, Elam, Verav Chesed. So the Chesed, kindness of the world, but world also means eternal kindness, which is Therefore, it's limited to, it may be eternal, but it's within the realm of the world. And then Rav Chesed, an abundance of kindness. So the Rebbe explains, the kindness of the world that's already has limitation, it has measurement limitation. They say the shtalshlus, because it's part of the world, so it has the limitations of the world, of the chain of creation of the world, but it's within the world. Therefore, it has to go through all the chain of creation, and therefore it could get held up. But when you say abundant of kindness, it's like bursting through. It's not limited to the rules of the creation of the world. It's not chesed oilam. It's not of the world. It's an abundance of kindness. It's higher than the chain of creation. We're taken from the source, from higher than where creation begins. Therefore, it's higher than a limitation, a measurement than a limitation. And therefore, it comes out without anything holding it back and holding it up. And it comes down to the lowest realm, like it is in the supernal realm. Therefore, and on this is referred to in Tehillim, in chapter 42. We say this at the outset of Ma'ariv prayer, that every day God commands His kindness. This is also the day part. So, because we also, day means a day that includes a night and a day, but day also means the daylight hours, daytime. So chesed is called this kindness is called the daily. Days which go with all days, as the Kabbalistic way of saying that is, that it goes into the chain of creation. But then the Alter Rebbe adds in his Maimer Likutei Torah, see what is explained and expounded upon elsewhere in the Chassidus of the Alter Rebbe. On the verse which is in Eicha, in Lamentations, now usually we say there's a few ways to translate this. The kindness of God, the kindnesses of God that haven't ceased. But also here we're going to say this translation that the word tamnu, tam can mean it's finished, but tam means something is. Why is it finished? Because it's complete. So if it says lo yisamnu, so you could split up this word that we had kindness of God because lo yisamnu were not complete. Not only that the kindness of God wasn't completed, or the kindness of God has not ended because it's always there. So v'yeshleimar, like Menachem says, you can take it to the bank. Shachaz de loshen rabim. He doesn't say chesed Hashem, the kindness of God. It says the kindnesses of God, plural. Koi al beis b'chinas chesed. This is both levels of kindness. Chesed elam v'rav chesed. Both the kindness that is limited to the worldly limitations and the abundant kindness. Where we get a sakedesh, the feidesh chasdei Hashem kilisamnu. And according to the way the Alter Rebbe explains in the Holy Epistle in the 10th letter, in the Tanya. So there he says in explaining this verse of the kindness of God that haven't ended, or that we're not complete. We depended on the kindness because we are not the ultimate and complete, etc. We're not like we should be. Therefore, we are conducted by the kindness of God. Nevertheless, the kindness of God breaks through that barrier, deserving or undeserving. Because the kindness of God, there's no limitation. It's kindness. It's kindness that's not dependent on something else. It's kindness that goes on. In order to evoke and awaken for us mercy and kindness from the supernal realm. That's an abundance of kindness. Mercy without any limitation, any goal or limit. So we can understand this also regarding what we're talking about. With the blessings, therefore, when it's drawn forth this abundance of kindness, it can penetrate It's a bunker-busting kindness in a good sense. Zehu inyan shel Aharon. This is what Aharon is about. Koyin isha chesed. A koyin is the man of kindness. Shubechinas rav chesed. It's the idea of abundant kindness. And therefore, he could draw forth the blessing from its root and its source, from its source and its root. Till this low world, there's nothing lower than it. Gashmi Salem, the physical of the world, in a hasty fashion without anything that holds it back. Now the Rebbe is going to continue and tie it all in these last couple of pages. Veheenay Purach Matay Aharon Vayigmol Shkaydim. And this is what it means that Aaron's staff blossomed and grew almonds. Because that which issues forth through Aaron is in a fast, hasty fashion without anything holding it back. Therefore, that which alludes to this is the idea of almonds. That's why it was the almond fruit and not oranges or apples or something else. Like as we mentioned earlier, they are the fastest to complete growing, faster than any fruit or grain, as mentioned. And you could add, you could take this to the bank. In addition to the fact that the priestly blessing is an eternal mitzvah that's for all time. Even nowadays we don't have the temple standing, we still have the priestly blessing. This idea, then you have to know when the mitzvah is given that this will be an unlimited mitzvah, right at the outset, right when the mitzvah is given. So the Rebbe says here something phenomenal. Right at the start of this, we already see its eternal power and function, and its eternity, and that it has no limitation. And that's already recognized right when it starts, Shkaydim, through, and it's illustrated through this idea of the almonds. Like it says in the Maimer, like Alter Rebbe explained, it says a day which is all long. So when does the day become long? When it keeps on lasting and lasting and lasting. So at the end of the day, you say it's a long day. No, if it's all along, all of it is long. That means it's long right at the beginning of the day too. It's a special long day. Right when it starts, it's also long. At the beginning of this day, you see that this is a quote-unquote long day without limitations. This is the idea of the symbol that the staff of Aaron blossomed with almonds. Right at the outset of the priesthood of Aaron, we had the symbol that illustrates the whole general idea of the priesthood and the blessing of the Kohen, of his blessing, his priestly blessing would be quick and hastily, speedily and fastly. Without any limitations or something which would hold it back. Dalit. Veheenay Now the Rebbe adds here, and this is what I was alluding to at the beginning of the introduction. At the end of the Maimer and Likutei Torah, the Alter Rebbe says that this idea of shkida, which is alacrity and diligence, you have this where also the word in Hebrew mutav means something which is not good. We say this in toiv means good. Mutav means something which maybe potentially would have, could have, should have been good. So it means something not good. So something not good and good. Why? The Rebbe says, why does the Alter Rebbe say that you could have the idea of shkida, of diligence and fast for good and not good? Why should he bring it here? It's not just to mention the mere fact, to state the fact that that's the way it could be, without any reason. It's not just everything that the Alter Rebbe says, or for that matter, anything in Torah is significant. It's not just to state a general idea. So, like the Menachem says, you can take it to the bank. The Rebbe says, here's what we could say, the explanation why the Alter Rebbe brings here this idea that a diligence could be also in good and not good. Now here's where the Rebbe brings out this fundamental idea of of uh, of, of, of the Rebbe's focus. Veheenay hasim de Purach Matay Aharon is gala davke achrei machlekes Korach. When did the story happen? This story didn't happen the day that Moses was told to have Aaron appointed and do the priestly work. It didn't happen on the first day of Nisan, the first day that he was inaugurated, the first day that he had to do the work. It happened later on. It happened after the rebellion, specifically after the rebellion of Korach. His rebellion was that he was saying that, well, why did you choose, came to Moses, why did you choose Aaron as the priest? And of course it was God who chose him. But he felt that he should have gotten a higher ranking. He was also a cousin. Therefore, when he came with his group, so Moses says, hey, we're going to see. Maybe you're right? So all of you have to offer up the incense in the pan, etc. And we'll see in the morning who God is going to choose. Yeah, he's going to make a choice now in front of everybody. And there's going to be a spectacle here. And if he chooses you, you'll be the high priest. And of course, we all know the story. God did choose all those 250 people to be swallowed up by the earth, alive. So in other words, and Aaron was the priest. But after this rebellion, that's when the story happens. Maybe this all could have been saved by the staff of Aaron blossoming the almonds on inauguration day of the sanctuary. But that's not what happened. The Rebbe says, why did it have to happen afterwards? Specifically after this rebellion, because of what is so powerful and special that light has when it comes forth from darkness, and that it has over darkness, and this idea that we've discussed in other mamorim of Yoshas Choshech Sisrei, the secret of darkness is that really there is light behind it. There could be light, and what's abundantly greater in wisdom from folly and from foolishness. The same idea when you say it's relative and more than relative, when it comes issues forth and it's transformed from one to the other, when darkness is transformed to light, and when folly and foolishness is transformed to wisdom. In a way of transforming darkness to light, and bitterness to sweetness. And then we have clarified and refined the strength of the priesthood of Aaron. After the rebellion, that was able to bring out the strength. Now there was a complaint, there was a referendum, there was a shall we say, ratifying the priesthood. And then it was revealed this idea of the alacrity and the haste of the staff that, and here the Rebbe uses the same term, look carefully here, of the prophecy of Jeremiah, and he's comparing them. In the prophecy of Jeremiah, he's talking about the negative. But here, the Rebbe takes the same term that's used, and there's a comparison, and he puts it in now to the idea of Aaron. So this is the Rebbe, in his own lesson, is teaching us that that's what the negative is there to bring out the positive. So here, it doesn't say the words of the verse of Matay Aharon, but it's Makel Shoked. The Rebbe uses the words from the prophecy of Jeremiah here. Zehu shemevi kan in Shkaydim, and here the Rebbe is saying also, where the Alter Rebbe explains that you can have it for the not good to the good. Zehu shemevi kan in Shkaydim de epachatayv. And that's why he brings here also the idea, the Alter Rebbe brings it, to say that it's possible to have it for the opposite, referring to the prophecy of Jeremiah, the almonds of the opposite of good. Shetachlisam lehopcham letayv. The ultimate is to transform them to good. Then they have the advantage of the transformation from darkness to light. Like the great advantage of light over darkness, and from the darkness. you do a Beperish Mashakos of Aseli Matam Loshan Rabbim, as it's known, Chassidus explains, chapter 27 of Tanya, on the verse when Isaac told Jacob, make me delicacies in the plural. And it's explained by the sages and Chassidus that delicacies mean they're sweet delicacies and savory delicacies, spicy delicacy. So it's plural. Now something spicy really is burny, but if it's made properly, that means that then people enjoy it. It's tasty. So that's the idea of transforming the evil to good. And then there are things that are already sweet and things that are potentially sweet. The Ashleimar, like Menachem says, you can take it to the bank. This is also the explanation of the content of the blessing of, and you shall be guarded mina mazikin, from the damaging forces, from the demons. If God is going to give you, if Aaron is going to give you a blessing, and God is going to give what should the blessing be? That you should be guarded from the demons. I have a better blessing. You would think, get rid of the demons, get rid of the damaging forces. So why do we leave them to exist? We just guard you that you shouldn't get damaged. Since the blessing is to spring forth from above, and it's such a lofty blessing, as we've explained at length. We could have gotten rid of the destructive forces completely, and indeed, like we have a promise from God in Vishbati Chayaro Minoretz, and I will destroy evil, bad animal, wild, bad, destructive animals from the earth. We're talking about when we go into the land of Israel. Like it's the simplest way. We take them away, we remove them from the world. The reason why it says to be guarded from them, but they remain, is because that shows the advantage of transformation of darkness to light. We all have darkness, but it's there to bring out the light within us. It's there to bring out the good. Therefore, this is what happened was in the priesthood of Aaron that came forth after the rebellion of Korach. That's the whole idea of being guarded from the destructive forces. Some destructive forces remain, just they are not effective. They can't do anything. But we're guarded from them. And then what happens to the destructive forces ultimately? The destructive forces will also be transformed into good. In other words, not that they're gotten rid of, but they become good. Like the second explanation of it, when it says, I will get rid of the bad animals from the earth, getting rid of them, meaning that they shouldn't be damaging anymore. They shouldn't do damage. And that's why it says in the promises and the prophecies of the future to come, Mashiach comes, the famous verse, the wolf will live with the lamb, goyim, etc. There it says that noyeg bum, and a small lad will lead them. The koyal bnei Yisrael, kinar Yisrael ve'aveyu. That's a reference to the children of Israel because we're called God's lad. Israel is the lad and the one who he loves, and will lead them. And now the Rebbe brings out the rest of those verses. In the end, it says, and the Rebbe picks the snake, the serpent. Before the sin of Adam and Eve and Adam in the Garden of Eden that was promoted by the snake, before that, the Talmud tells us he was Hoyashamish Godel. He was a prominent and a great agent. It was too bad that such a great agent, prominent agent, was destroyed from the world. In other words, he changed how it was from being prominent to being insignificant to being destructive. he turned into being a destructive. But in the future to come, the serpent will once again return and be transformed to good. And then he will also have the advantage of the transformation from bad to good. And the Rebbe brings the rest of the prophecy there. And a suckling, a baby, will play over the viper's hole where the snake comes out of. And the adder's den, it says he will be able to walk around a bit. So in other words, because the serpent won't be vicious anymore. These are different forms of the snake. So they're all from this nachash that changed. So this is they're alluding to making things from evil to good. Hey, the Yeshlakashim Zen closing you may be in Now it says the month of Tammuz, we have the days that are called between the usually we say the boundaries, but the two dates of the 17th of Tammuz till the 9th of when we mark the destruction of the temple. And we mark it by, of course, working towards rebuilding the temple. But the days are called Bein HaMetzorim. Between these two dates, these two ends, the Veheenay Bein HaMetzorim Hein Chof Aleph Yoim. How many days is it? It's 21 days, 3 weeks. Shazehu Zman Gidul HaShokit. We're not going to get into the question over here that it's actually 22 days. You have a good yes, it's a good question. Because three weeks is indeed 21 days. But they start and end on the same day. The 17th of Tammuz and the 9th of Av are on the same day of the week because it's actually a 22nd day. There are different answers to that question. But ultimately it's 21 days. This is the time that it takes for the growth of the almond. 21 days. Like the Talmud, in the Medrash it says, and the Talmud explains that it takes from the time that the first part of the blossom, what's it called when it before it's even a blossom, when it starts to sprout, until the fruit is finished, it's 21 days. So the goal of these 3 weeks are to transform them to good. Now the Rebbe says that this is stressed, this idea comes forth openly when we are on the day of the 3rd of Tammuz. Now, just to give a bit of the historic background here for a moment, when the Rebbe's Rebbe and father-in-law, the previous Rebbe, was arrested on the 15th day of Sivan, and he was jailed in Petersburg, which was then called Leningrad. And on the 3rd day of Tammuz, they actually, after interrogating him and torturing him, etc., they actually said, you know what, for a counter-revolutionary like you, we're going to sentence you to the opposite of life. And that's what they said. And on the day of the 3rd of Tammuz, they rescinded that. And they said, we're going to spare that sentence, and we're going to send you instead to exile. So that was a big day for Chassidim, because they took away the threat at that point of the opposite of life, and they said they will send him to exile. So Shahu Hischalta the Geula Yud-Beis Gimmel Tammuz. That's the beginning of the redemption of the 12th and the 13th of Tammuz. And ultimately, historically, what happened is that he was sent to a city called Kastrama, many miles away. Our Rebbetzin accompanied the previous Rebbe there. And then they after further supplication and interaction and etc., as the story is well known, On the 12th of Tammuz, he was set free. They said he's free to go. They sent a telegram to his exile city, and it was a legal holiday, so he went free on the 13th of Tammuz. The previous Rebbe's birthday is on the 12th of Tammuz, and that's when the great celebration is. But the beginning of that celebration is the 3rd of Tammuz, because the 3rd of Tammuz, they took away that sentence. So there we see that ultimately everything could be transformed from the worst to what would be the best. And certainly that the day of Gimmel Tammuz, the way we mark it, also certainly we'll be able to see how that will also be transformed into something that will see the great blossoming, because although we saw the passing of the Rebbe in this day, we also will merit to see the greatest fulfillment of the prophecies, which will include the resurrection of all those and all the great tzaddikim, and certainly the tzaddik who loved every single Jew of in the generation, and promoted and strengthened and hastened bringing about that day. And we can already see it with every day that passes, more and more, we're closer and closer to this redemption. So shahoyse bo'efen shapeser osir hu apeshe hiter, and the Rebbe uses here the halachic way of looking at things, that at certain times that the mouth that said it's forbidden is also able to say that now things are good. Because if you believe them to say that it wasn't good, then you believe them also that it will be good. And that has a lot of halachic ramifications. But here also, there in the story, the same ones who sentenced him, who were going to sentence him to that, then they released him. They transformed. They were going to do what they were going to do, and instead they sent to exile. That was the beginning of ultimately sending him free. Vav. Now let's finish it up here. We can connect this to the mimer of the 5th Rebbe, the Rebbe Rashab. And the Rebbe almost mentions all the Rabbeim here. He doesn't clearly mention, but he does mention ideas that are also found in the Middle Rebbe's Chassidus and his father's Torah. And so the Rebbe says, he connects this to the mimer of the Rebbe Rashab, Sefer Morim Shalish Nidfas for Mesa Korach Fikris Shabbos, that in a Sefer HaMamorim, in a book of his Chassidus, that was printed and brought from the binder before Shabbos began. This mimer is from the Shabbos of the 3rd of Tammuz, Parshas Korach, and on Erev Shabbos, they received from the publication the book. And here, if you look in number 54 at the bottom, the Rebbe was talking then during the mimer. The Rebbe added, so since it came right before Shabbos, at least we'll be able to look in the mimer. In other words, you might not have had time. There might not have been time to study with the full depth. May it be the will that but now we'll also study them, not just look at it. Since they're very dear, when you get a new book, it has something very endearing, so a person is encouraged more to study more. So in the mimer, now the Rebbe brings from it, the Rebbe already mentioned something that came at the beginning of the mimer. I believe it's the mimer at the outset there. The verse says, and from the narrow straits I call out to you, God, Yudke, answer me in abundance, in a broad sense. Yudke, name of God. The only reason for the narrow the straits is so that you should call out from there, but that calling out, but that should bring the true breadth and abundance in a most broadest fashion. So that's what it's for. When things are tough, it's just to bring out the great that will follow it. We can also connect this with that which is explained in the Tzemach Tzedek's Maimorim in the book of Oir HaTorah. in about the Song of Songs, Shir Hashirim, Shegam Hu Nitfas V'Vim Beis HaKedah Lifnei Shabbos, and that also was brought from the binder right before Shabbos. And the Rebbe says, and hopefully we'll have a time to look at that too, like it says in notation 54. Betchilos Ela Posuk Shir Hashirim Asher L'Shleimei. In also in the beginning of that book is on the first verse of the Song of Songs. That is the Solomon. Shashidim, what does it say? Songs, which is poetic songs. Losharabim, the plural. Koyel binu malchus. That is a reference to the attribute of bina, of understanding, which is development of the idea of the wisdom which is not yet developed, and Malchus, the seventh Sfira, which includes all the Sfiras and pervades them further. So it includes them all. So now, elsewhere in Chassidus it's explained, even though the Rebbe says that in this Maimer things are explained differently. So a lot of concepts are explained in different fashions throughout Chassidus. So Shasfiras and Malchus Bechinas Meitza. Sometimes we look at Malchus as a narrow sphera because it has its limitations. It's made up of all the other ones, and the Rebbe explains also lefisha ragleh yerdes chulu. It explains that it's a reverse in Proverbs, but Chassidus explains that its feet go down, meaning to say that Malchus. Sometimes we look at this as very advantageous. It's the lowest level of, let's say, every world and everything, because it's the culmination, it's the inclusion of everything, but it also pervades forward the same thing to the next world. So Malchus of the of this world becomes Chachma. It's the idea of how it's going to be further developed. But that means Ragleh HaYordes it continues the chain at its spot, and therefore it's the female sphere because it has everything within it and it pervades to the next one. But therefore that's something which is narrow, straight. It's complex. The ilu bina bina, which is also considered a female sphere, by the way, is considered an abundant because it's the development, like the female develops the child. So it's like a wide river. Ad the tachas harachvus, to the ultimate of the development in an abundant fashion. So here you merchav yudke, the abundance of God. So you have both together. So al pizein yishir hashirim loshan rabin. So the Song of Songs in the plural. Malchus meitzer bina merchav. Malchus is the narrow, and bina the understanding is the development that's broad. That's the idea from the narrow, answer me with broad. So when from the tough we come to the relief of the abundance. Zayin v'hirotz. Now the Rebbe finishes up by saying with a prayer, and may it be the will, we should have it should be fulfilled with us, this idea that when we cry out to God from when things are narrow, things are tough, I call out to God, answer me in abundance, please God. Shemiyad, immediately b'smich, Shkaydim Tammuz, in proximity to the first day to the Rosh Chodesh, the head of the month of Tammuz Akel, let's call Yimei HaChodesh, which includes all the days of the month. Yisbat, l'kol inyonim ha'bilti ritzuim debenim etzorim, all negative things, the things that aren't good of this period, of the 3 weeks period, should be nullified. The Yekuyim Psak HaRambam, we shall have the fulfillment of the ruling of the Maimonides. These days in the future will become good days. Days of happiness and joy. Shenemar, like it says in the prophet in Zechariah 8. Koyom ar Hashem, so says God, etc. Goimer. Tzoyim Ravi Goimer Yehi Lebeis Yehuda. There it says the fast day of the 4th month. That's the 17th of Tammuz. And it continues. The verse says the fast day of the 5th month, right? And the fast day of the 10th month, etc. So these fast days will Yehi Lebeis Yehuda. They will be for the house of Judah. For all of us, for happiness and for joy and for good times, and holidays. And the Rambam adds, and he also quotes the end of that verse, and truth and peace they love. Why does he say that? If like they show, it's going to be accomplished through peace. That's the idea of unity amongst Israel, loving one each other. This is the Navaleh, the special thing of the 12th of Tammuz, that the one who was redeemed, the Rebbe's Rebbe and previous Rebbe, the master of the redemption, writes, this is a redemption for everybody. He says, not only was I redeemed, I was representing everybody. So that's anybody, even if he's just called, referred to as being Jewish, being an Israelite. He's not practicing, he's not faith, it doesn't matter, because I was taken in for Judaism, not for anything else. This redemption was for every Jew, even somebody who's not involved. And they're just called Jew. He also issues the letter to those that endear our Torah, which is holy. Shame the mitzvah, those who fulfill the mitzvah. Everybody is included. Hainu, doesn't matter the level. Hainu shegam bohem pelim yitziyam. But even then, some things. I already keep everything. I already do everything. So he says, no. Every person on every level has growth and has to experience growth and can do more and more. So they are also affected by this redemption. It's an exodus and a redemption from the limitation and the boundaries and limitations of them on their level. They might be holy, but they're holy limitations. So they could be redeemed from that and continue to grow. The ultimate of this redemption is to affect the entire world. All hindrances and things that hold back are nullified completely. May it fall upon them fear and trepidation, as we say in the Oz Yashir, as Moses said in the song after the Exodus from Egypt. Look how these days, how the Rebbe said this 40 years ago, and it's like you could say it today. And may they be subservient and totally submissive and nullified, like the dust of the earth, actually. The Kuyim calls Zebishleimus for Bias Mashiach said, this will all be fulfilled in its ultimate, the coming of our righteous Mashiach. And in a way that immediately they are redeemed, miyad mamish, actually immediately. Amen l'chaim.